We'll open this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilor Lambert.
Present.
Councilor Roderick.
Present.
Councilor Aruda.
Present.
Councilor Durfee.
Present.
Councilor Boland.
Yep.
Councilor Leonard.
Present.
And Councilor Costa.
Here.
All present.
Tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of minutes from October 13, 2009 regular council meeting. Councilor Lambert and Councilor Leonard abstained, absent. Approval of executive session minutes from October 13, 2009. Councilor Lambert and Councilor Leonard abstained, absent. Receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: the Castle Hill Cemetery Commission, Wastewater Management Commission, Historical Cemetery Commission, Recreation Commission. Correspondence received and filed. Received from Jamestown School Committee, Exeter West Greenwich Regional School District, East Greenwich School Committee, Town of Portsmouth Smithfield School Committee, and City of East Providence resolutions opposing binding arbitration on monetary matters for school teachers. Approval of tax assessor abatements. The Town Treasurer approval and report of estimated betterment fees fiscal year 2009-2010. Reconciliation of Fire Department overtime July 1st, 2009 to October 22nd, 2009. And Treasurer's report on revenue and expenses for September 2009. Town Administrator approval for release of carry-forwards, stenographer services for 80549 in account 108340, account 554452, grass and brush cutting for $9,920, and account 665-690, Arts Council miscellaneous operating supplies for $79.33. And that is tonight's consent agenda.
Make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Moving on to regular business, bids and requests for proposals. DPW request council approval for water bid to purchase used brush mower cutter to low bidder MC Clements Tree Service, Vineyard Haven, Massachusetts for $32,000. Here we go again. The account for the brush mower was $22.80, and I take it we're again trying to add the $9,000 from the brush cutting
Right.
to that number.
From this, right, the carry forward.
Okay, we had this discussion a few months ago. We talked about this. Is there a change in it said we will, we only had $22,080 to buy a brush mower?
Right, and the request is indicating that the $22,000 would be from the capital account, and also it's requested to release the $99.20 from the carry forward funds to be used to augment the balance needed.
The release of the carry-forward funds is not an issue to put it back into DPW for use. What it's going to be used for, I think, was part of our discussion several months ago, and this seems to be nothing more than a repeat of what was turned down several months ago because it wasn't what was proposed at the financial town meeting.
Still a problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anybody has changed their mind in how this matter should be handled, but that was not the amount of money.
No, I mean, obviously, when we had the discussion after the financial town meeting, the $22,000 was set aside for the brush mower. We had the discussion regarding the funds that are now a carry forward, that they weren't part of a purchase. It was $22,000 was set for the purchase. I mean, that's my understanding. That's what was agreed to, and I can't see it changing now.
Well, when it was presented before, it was presented as a lease and then a purchase, where this is no longer a lease. It's just a straight purchase.
I think the issue that arose when we first went to this, it was a presentation made to the Budget Committee that they needed $22,080. The discussion was, it was never suggested at that time that we were taking carry-forward funds and adding it to that and buying something that was more than $22,080. And then, after the financial town meeting, the discussion turned to adding the $9,000 we didn't spend for brush cutting. And if we didn't spend it, how did we get the brush cut for the rest of the year? Because we cut it. So I even want to question how we have $9,920 left in that account if we had the brush cut.
The brush cutter that we have is the funk that.
Yeah, that $9,900 came from set aside of funding we had ready for our contract brush cutting and mowing for the spring, for last spring, which would have been last fiscal year. And the confusion lies, it might have been on my part, that I was looking at the funding distribution when I requested $22,000 in a capital expenditure for this fiscal year and was going to lease the mower for the spring cut, which was in last fiscal year. You know, the total did come to 32, but it was going to be a lease purchase. We were going to use the $10,000 we had available to lease it for the spring cut and pay the balance of 22. So that's where the funding across fiscal year lines came about. You know, there was no intention of disillusionment or try to bury anything. It was
Steve,
just a
nobody's
funding
accusing
thing,
anybody of burying anything, but the explanation you're giving us right now is not the explanation that we got last year. If somebody would have said, we're doing this in 2 increments, we're leasing the machine for $9,000 from now until July 1st and spending 22, and that wasn't the discussion we had when this issue came up before us right after the financial town meeting. And now we're getting it presented in another fashion.
I think had the full disclosure been made in the beginning, it would not be a problem. But it's being done on a piecemeal. You know, if we said this is going to cost $32,000 or close to that, and we budgeted for that, and we go to the budget committee and said, here's the capital expenditure. But that's not what occurred. And it may have been the best intentioned in the world, but sometimes you live with the fact that you haven't given it full disclosure. Because people will come back at us as a councilman, as Don Boland just said, and said, that's not what you said. And it isn't. So that's the problem we're struggling with, and there's no way it's to easily get around, to be honest.
Well, that's all I say is, before we had a semi-fallback position in that our 1983 mower that could only cut the side of the road was working. We've used that. It breaks down a lot, but at least it was a safety valve. The engine has totally blown. It's a $6,000 engine. And to spend $6,000 on a 1983 machine when many other things are wrong with the machine doesn't make sense. So I'm stuck right now, not overlooking everything in front of you, with no ability to hire a mower or to buy a mower. I have lots of complaints. The stuff is growing into the road, blocking stop signs. That's where I am at. I have a dire need based on that, and
well, that was going to be my question. What are we going to do for a brush cutter come the spring? I think we've created a record here that recognizes there was a mistake made. The information was not as transparent as it should have been. But I think with that record, recognizing, hey, we do need this mower and we do need this brush cutter, maybe we just swallow hard on this one, move along and say, hey, we've got to do something. I mean, we're going to pay this out somehow. And we apparently are getting a reasonable bargain with this older brush cutter. I would make a motion that we just move ahead, agree to the contract, and recognize we put a record together that explains how the mistake was made.
Can I ask you a question? This mower will be delivered to Woods Hole, Massachusetts, at a set time after November 1st. What is going to cost? How are we going to get that mower, even assuming Mr. Lambert prevails, which he may or may not? I don't know.
He's going to send one of the guys up there with a truck and trailer and bring it
We'll
back.
bring it back. That's exactly the intention, yeah.
With a flatbed?
With our flatbed, it'll fit on our flatbed, and we were going to bring it back with our flatbed.
Okay, and take the ferry over?
No.
No, he's going to
Woods
deliver
Hole
it.
this
He's
side.
going to
Oh,
deliver it
okay.
to this
So
side.
he will deliver it to Woods Hole?
Yeah.
To yeah, the mainland, and we'll pick it up in
So what's the
Woods Hole
cost
on
of
the
that?
main. Beg your pardon?
What's the cost to us?
It'll probably take a good 4 hours to get there, load it.
Bridges out. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
It'll take a little longer than working on the Sagamore.
Yeah, that's true. So it's going to cost us a day with 2 men.
He goes over the
When,
lawn anyway.
when is the first mowing in the spring?
I would say the first mowing in the spring we'd do in May, but we're really missing the fall one, and that's the one where we have bushes growing into roadways in which cars are getting scratched, and in the sight distance of of safety signing, we haven't got to that yet. And you have to really see a stop sign or a yield sign at some distance, and that's what we're facing right now. We'd have to do a fall cut for signs, sight distances, just to open them up a bit.
So we have no intentions of repairing the older Ford tractor.
None whatsoever. No.
Could I say something, Mr. President?
Sure you may.
I'm going to second Mr. Lambert's motion by saying that I think with regards to the $22,000 plus that were approved by the financial town meeting, I think what the financial town meeting did was approve a figure that was handed to them. And they said, you want 22.9? Okay, but they didn't really say, don't ever spend 1 penny more. I'm wondering, and maybe I'm wrong, but if there's a legitimate need and we've got the money to get that work done, then I don't think the taxpayers in Tiverton are going to get excited about it if they see the results of us going forward with this project. So I would ask the council to reconsider our approaches in the past and vote in favor of getting this job done and moving on.
I have no problem with that, Hannibal, but the situation, and you've got to remember that it was presented that we were buying something for $22,080 as opposed to paying a contract to someone which was X number of dollars, and there was going to be immediate savings to the town by doing this at that number. The number is not $22,000 anymore. It's $32,000 to buy this piece of equipment. It's a different set of circumstances. Would the Budget Committee have made the same recommendation if those circumstances were presented to them? That's, I think, what the issue is here, more than, I know we need the piece of equipment, but if you give the wrong capital numbers, this is no different than saying we're going to buy a rescue vehicle, and the rescue vehicle is going to cost $200,000, and the town appropriates $200,000 over what type of financing or whatever, and when we go to buy it, it's $250,000. And we had this happen to us in the past, and we're lambasted for spending more on a piece of equipment than what was appropriated through the financial town meeting. That's what this issue is, an appropriation being spent more than the appropriation for a particular piece of equipment. My concern, we have a motion and we have a second, so we're in discussion and we will be taking a vote on it. But that's my only concern. Does it change? I'm not going back because I can't recall all of the details of what was told to the Budget Committee, but I do know it was sold a bill of goods that at $22,000, and here's what we pay annually to get the brush cut. We take this back in-house, and we're going to be better off by having the machine in-house.
From what I
But
can
that
remember
number.
at the Budget Committee meeting, it was presented to the Budget Committee that it was $22,000, not $32,000.
Yes.
I understand that,
That's what
but
was
if we had presented the figure 32,000 to both the Budget Committee and the Financial Town Meeting, the question is, would they have approved it? Now, there's no way of any of us knowing what the Financial Town Meeting did or will do or could do. My thought is to
But that's the
consider the
whole budget
wisdom of the...
process. That's what the budget process does. It shakes out those things that need to be aired out and discussed, and that's what was brought out at the Budget Committee, and that's the proposal that they took back to the townspeople.
Certainly, our budget process is not a perfect process.
No, nothing is.
Prepare
That's what
budgets
happens.
18 months in advance.
That's what it
I
is.
think we have to have some discretion, especially when we put together a thorough record like this that explains the whole situation. I would think anybody with common sense would look at this and say, Well, at least they're not throwing money away. I mean, I can understand how they got
Now-
into this position. They were put into a corner. We need the mower. What do we do? Just keep moving on like this until we have another financial town meeting?
Yeah, you have $9,900, you hire somebody to cut the brush, which what we were doing. And if we go back to next year, that doesn't work for us anymore, then we have to,
I'd hate to
obviously.
find out come the fall or the spring that we can't get somebody for that 9,000. Then what do we do? Suppose somebody comes in with a bid $1 more. What do we do at that point? Say, no, we have to wait for the next financial town meeting. I think the town council has to have some common sense discretion on something like that.
I am amazed. The Jay Lambert of the candidate versus Jay Lambert of the sitting council member. Now, if you were campaigning out there, Mr. Lambert, what would you say?
I'd make exactly the same argument.
It's not what I heard.
Well, can I say that all year long, we transfer funds from one account to another to make up for a shortage of one place or the other? Are we violating the desires of the
You know,
financial town
I
meeting?
think that-
Transferring funds to make a shortfall is a different situation than a capital purchase. A capital purchase is something you go out and you figure what it's going to cost you, and you ask somebody to appropriate a dollar amount for a capital purchase. We have no exact control over some of these numbers where we deal with, whether it be overtime, whether it be some of these other situations where shortfalls occur, and we transfer money because they're not set. To me, a capital purchase is a set number that you can't exceed. And that's one of the things that you put forward as a capital expenditure, and it's not one that you can change and manipulate and pull funds from other things to cover that. And that's my only concern. I don't want to get into an area that takes what we do and expands it. We have to make transfers to make ends meet in other accounts, but it's not the same as the capital.
Yes, Mr.
I'm not
President.
aware of the rule.
I see a couple different ways forward. First off, I strongly support the position that the capital budget is the capital budget. That's what was approved. I don't think we should be transferring money from an operating account, that is grass and brush cutting, to capital budget. That just is not the way to do it. There's two alternatives. One, we can just go out and seek bids and get done whatever we can for $9,920, wherever those numbers may take us. The other, I would propose that maybe we could take the $99.20 out of the council contingency fund, also known as miscellaneous. Well, at this point, I don't like that because we've only got $20,000 in there and we're a long ways from the end of the year. So, be I right or be I wrong, I come down on the side that we put the bid aside, we go out and request quotes to get as much work as far as the fall mowing that we can get done for $99.20, and then with the new budget cycle, we start over and say we're going to buy a mower for $32,000 at the next go-around.
But that's the result of what we have in front of us. That's what the instruction was last time, was to go back out and get those bids, and that's what's here. There's a bid from Clements Tree, there's a bid from Baker. That's the result of that.
Okay, the result of the bid says that we can't buy the machine at this
Either one.
time. Either one, because they're both over the number that was appropriated.
And that's what I'm saying.
No, right. So
We've gotta go
we
back.
really, that's right. We have 99.20 in which we could contract somebody to cut the brush that needs to be cut in the fall cycle on those
Right now.
dangerous intersections or signage or whatever is the blockage. And then we got to go through the process again and request an amount of money that will cover a brush cutter, which is going to be in the $30,000, not in the $20,000.
Or above.
Mr. President?
If I could say a few, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. President, my recollections of the discussions we've had on this, I think the question was put quite pointedly, what was the cost of the new brush cutter? And we were told $22,008. That's my recollection at this council meeting. But we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
We do, and we will vote on it. We're still in discussion. Jim, you wish to say something?
Yeah, if I could just say a few words. We needed a brush cutter and a mower, and we needed it in the spring. and we saw this opportunity, and we initially presented it as a lease purchase. Lease the machine for $99.20 to get the spring mowing done.
Jim, I'm going to disagree with you. It was talked about when we met before about combining numbers to equal $30,000 to purchase it. It was not told to us we were going to lease the machine for $9,000 under the brush cutting, and then when that was exhausted, we were going to buy the machine for $22,000.
Jim.
Because that would have flew. That thing, we would have the brush cutter sitting here, and we would have cut all spring.
Right. Jim,
Because that's reasonable.
your recollection goes back till after the financial town meeting when this, but all through that, what we heard as a council was 22, 22, 22. And there was never a variation until later when the information developed. And so I have to agree with Don. It was never presented to us as a lease and purchase until after the fact and after the full disclosure and the votes were taken. And that's, Jay Lambert has a point, but when you deal with full disclosure and you try to establish some trust in the community, it's very difficult.
We've had capital accounts in the past that wouldn't cover, let's say, the roof on the senior center. So what do we do it? We do half. And then we go to another appropriation and get the rest of the money to finish it. For the same thing. We didn't transfer money into that because it was a capital account. And because it's a capital account, you've been given a specific dollar amount, and it's what you requested.
Should we move the question?
Okay. We have a motion on the floor in a second to combine the two figures of the 2280 and the 9920 to make the 32,000 for the purchase of the brush cutter. All those in favor? 2. Opposed? 5. Motion fails. Next is a request the council approval for award of bid to supply and install a new liftgate for existing DPW truck to a Quidnick machine, Tiverton, Rhode Island, for $37.85.
Request approval of the award to Quidnick.
I'll make a motion that award be made for $37.85.
I'll second it.
We have a motion made and seconded. I'm just going to look to make sure we have enough money in the account to cover the expense.
Go ahead. Done.
5.4648.
648.
Page 14,
Yeah, I think that's
very
up to it.
top count.
Okay, they're sufficient. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the bid. It to be paid from account 554648, repairs and tires. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have to ask a question. The question is, do we intend to do what we just did every time there's something on the agenda for something that starts at $1,000 and goes up, I suppose? Is that our role? I should think that whoever makes this proposal, and it's reviewed by the town administrator, we should take their word for it, and if any one of them comes in with an attempt to spend money that they don't have in a specific account, they should be fired immediately. It's against the law to exceed money in your budget, and on that basis, I would dump them.
Well, I think when we have a document in front of us, it's easy enough to look in the document and make sure one covers the other. It could be covered by a transfer or whatever. I just want to make sure, and it's there. We have a motion and a second to award this bid, and there's sufficient funds within the account to award it from. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Abstain.
One abstention. The motion passes. Request council approval for award of bid for supply and delivery of daily landfill cover to G. Lopes Incorporated in Taunton for $104,250.
The two lower bidders, they weren't very low, but the two lower bidders, did not meet the requirements of they didn't provide bonds. Therefore, we're going to the third lowest bidder.
Oops.
Do we have a motion to,
I'll make a motion that the bid be awarded to G. Lopes Construction, Inc. at $6.95 a ton.
Second.
we have a motion, a second discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Town Administrator requests council approve for award to bid to Newport Appraisal Group appraisal of both Nonquit and Ranger schools regarding market value and market rents for $2,800, funding from council contingency, account 102890.
The council had requested that we get estimates on appraisal of the Nonquit and Ranger School for the value, for sale purposes, and/or for rental. And Newport Appraisal Group came in the lowest. They're all the same time frame, about 3 weeks in duration, but they were the lowest.
I make a motion to approve the request and award the bid to Newport Appraisal for appraisals of both Nonquit and Ranger schools.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none.
I assume that will come out of the town council account.
Contingency,
Yes.
that's what it is.
Okay. No other questions for me?
It should be included in the motion that it's from council contingency, account 102890. We have the motion is
It
second.
does say that. Isn't $2,800 a lot of money to appraise these two buildings?
No.
It is not?
No, it isn't. It is not at all.
I remember when we did this in the probate court, and we got a licensed appraiser from Portsmouth who did it for a lot less money, but
But what was that, a
that's
house?
neither here nor there.
Was that a house?
I'm not sure what the building
Well,
was.
no, I'm saying it probably,
a
in
house.
probate, it was probably just a
house.
house, which would come in a lot less. I think it's gonna take a lot less to do the assumptions and the comparables and so
That's
forth.
a fair price, two properties, such as schools that have been surplused.
We have a motion, a second, without further discussion. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Financial business, town administrator requests approval of transfers $89,715 from account 766851, the Ranger debt service, to account 112999, abatements and revenue reduction.
I have a question. I couldn't get my hands on the exact documents as it related to what the impact fees were to be appropriated for. So I'd like to have some kind of an explanation of how we can use the impact fees to offset abatements.
We're not really using the impact fees to offset abatements. The impact fees are allowed to pay for school debt, school bonds. And what we did was we paid the school debt utilizing abatement fees. Utilizing impact fees. So the monies that at this point were not needed in debt service are being transferred to the abatement and revenue reduction account. When the payment was made, it was intended to take X number of dollars from impact fees and Y from the debt service.
So then what you're saying then is that there's
An excess.
an excess in the debt service as it related to kind of like
The payment of the bond.
in advance of the impact fees.
Mr. President, may I?
Yes.
I recall when I was a town clerk, we talked about impact fees, and it didn't fly for some reason. And when did our impact fee bill pass? When did we change the ordinances to allow for the impact fee? Number one.
2007.
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Say again, please.
Either
had a
2006 or
separate-
7.
Okay, I wasn't here yet. But weren't fees collected in that manner to be set aside for the reduction of the tax rate?
No.
They
And it
were
was-
put
No.
aside, they were put aside for projects such as school projects or infrastructure projects, which the development had an impact upon. In other
Okay.
words, the impact fee was generated because with the new housing created the need for infrastructure, schools, and so forth. And if
Okay.
you were using that for those, and it was specifically set aside to offset school fees, and with the bonding going out for the 3 schools, it fell to where we had the projects that could use the impact fee monies as they came in, because we had just gone out and refurbished the schools. But I'm not sure, that it's the right thing to do is take the excess there, because the excess really should stay into debt service to reduce debt service and give us a lower number on debt service in the upcoming year. That's not one I want to take. I'm likely to vote in favor of using that debt service monies, to reduce our liability, the debt under the rebates, abatements. I don't know how anybody else feels.
Well, one thing that I honestly think that we should have from our town solicitors an opinion that, basically, we're doing indirectly what is forbidden directly. And I think before we did that, we should have from our town solicitors an opinion that this proposed transfer, in writing to the council, that this is an appropriate transfer under the ordinance.
Louise, if you make that a motion, I'll second it.
Oh, I'll make that a motion. I
I'll second
might
it.
make a motion to that effect.
That that matter be referred to our town solicitor for an opinion.
Well, that would be this matter and the next matter on the agenda, which is B,
Exactly, would be
which is
covered
the same,
in
the
both.
debt service. So
Yes.
There's a motion to refer these next 2 items for a
Opinion.
review and opinion by the solicitor back to the council before any action is taken on either item.
Jeannie, not a memorandum.
An opinion.
Yep, you go on the line.
We have a motion and a second to that effect. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Under new business, town treasurer, you have Glenn Rowley, Senior Vice President from Citizens Bank, for a brief presentation on government banking.
Just wanted to pass that.
Thank you.
At one of our meetings, I believe Ed Rogers was the one who asked me directly, Phil, are we getting our best bang for our buck from Citizens Bank? That led me to call upon Glenn Rowley. Glenn Rowley comes from us from Manchester, New Hampshire, so he's interested in a brief presentation as well. So he's got a long ride after this meeting. However, Glenn came to me, and as we discussed on the phone, that there was a need to reconnect and reestablish our relationship and to review our relationship as it stood. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Glenn Rowley, Senior Vice President of Citizens Bank Government and Non-for-Profit Division.
First, I wanted to thank you guys for letting me come and speak to you tonight. I'd like to start off by saying that Linda Calkins is your relationship manager. Unfortunately, she's got a family health issue she's tending to tonight, so she was not able to attend. So I want to apologize for that up front. But I am the team leader of government banking in Rhode Island, and what I wanted to do is kind of go through a little bit about Citizens Bank and more importantly about government banking and how we service municipalities, and talk about our relationship that we've had over the years, some of the current products that you guys are using right now, and then talk a little bit about what can be done in the future. And a hot topic is fraud, so I wanted to touch on that a little bit, and maybe some other products you might want to look at some point down the road. So I'm sure you're familiar with Citizens Bank. It's about a $153 billion commercial bank located throughout New England, the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest. Our main headquarters is in Providence, Rhode Island, and we're one of the top 10 largest banks in the country. As far as government banking is concerned, government banking is what we call the primary marketing and sales and service delivery group dealing with government entities. We have government offices in each of the states we do business in. Our office for government banking is in Providence, Rhode Island as well, on the west side. We currently service 37 of the 39 municipalities within the state of Rhode Island. Various forms, some are general fund relationships, some are just partial, but we're doing business with almost every single municipality in the state. We do have the lead presence within Rhode Island in the government banking sector as well. As I mentioned before, Linda Calkins is the relationship manager assigned to your relationship. Her role is to interact with your treasurer and be able to work with him and with all banking needs. What we try to do is be a one-stop shop where if there's any issues that the town has, we go right to Linda Calkins, who's the relationship manager, and she'd kind of oversee any of the issues. It's almost like private banking, more or less. I mean, she really holds your hand and makes sure that things are done appropriately. Standing behind Linda is our client services group. They do have an 800 number, but it's a different type of 800 number than you might think of at a bank. When you think of an 800 number at a bank, you might think of hundreds of employees servicing those phone calls. We have 4 people within our client services in Providence, Rhode Island that service municipalities. Kelly Quintanilla, who is the lead or the manager of that group, has been out to your office out here to work with Phil. They're very hands-on. They're always available. The nice thing is we only have 4 people. We always have someone available to talk to you. But the nice thing is that they get to understand the relationship and understand the account because we have so few people doing it. But we do have enough to service all our customers. So that's a little bit about government banking. It's actually one other thing that I want to say about government banking is that because of our size, we bring a lot of expertise to our customers. And if there are issues that Kelly's group can't answer, we also have another client services group in New Hampshire that can back her up. So if there's some sickness or somebody out on lunch, there's coverage that way as well. So I know, Phil, you've dealt with Gabe up in New Hampshire as well. So we not only have that structure here in Rhode Island, but we back it up with other departments throughout our footprint. And I'd have to say, as far as Rhode Island's concerned, well, we're proud of our service throughout our footprint, but I'd have to say, as far as Rhode Island, there isn't another bank in the state that can match the service that we offer you. We've had this relationship, I guess, going to the next page, since 1992. Over the years, we've worked with a few different treasurers. We've had a very good relationship. We had a previous relationship manager that's worked with us for many years that's since retired, but Linda's picked up the relationship, and I feel things have worked very well. Since you've appointed a full-time treasurer, we've been able to add a few more services to our relationship, but we continue with the training. One of the things that we do with our training is we don't have a problem coming out to the town to sit with the clerks or sit with new staff to be able to train on the services that we provide or that the software that we provide. I know many companies will charge per hour for training. We're always available. We'll come out and do that, and it's always free of charge. On page 5, I listed the products that Tiverton is currently utilizing. We've got Money Manager GPS. It's the balance reporting system. Over the past year, we've done some additional training, and we've opened up a few more modules so that it's got a little more functionality. We continue to offer zero balance accounts, and basically what that does is that consolidates money from less active accounts to the more active account so that you can do a better job of managing your cash. We added the school's payroll to that process this past year. We were in the process of working with the town with Easy Deposit, which is a remote deposit system. What that does is it allows you to make your deposit right within your office. It turns the check into an electronic file, and it's able to be credited to your account that night. So it speeds the process up. It allows you to be able to do it right in your office and not have to have a police escort or someone to bring the deposits to the bank. So it's more efficient for the town as far as collection is concerned, and also for the staff. One area that I think is important is the collateral. The municipality, the town of Tiverton has balances with the bank, and we collateralize those balances with securities that are owned by the bank. And what that does is that protects your overall deposits in case there was ever a bank failure. A lot of municipalities look for that protection so that they know that their funds are safe. The town of Tiverton is involved in a third-party provided program that we do through the Bank of New York Mellon. This is a very well-run process. It's automated, and you're able to get weekly and monthly confirmations on that to ensure that your balances are completely safe. The last piece is check reconciliation. We're now doing that where you get a list of paid checks and reconciliation reports, and that makes the job in the office as far as reconciling accounts a little more efficient. So those are some of the products that we're offering to the town right now. The next area what I want to talk about is more the future of where you might want to look for the relationship to go. And the area that's very hot over the last couple of years is fraud. Anybody that works in a corporation knows that fraud has become very popular these days. Anybody that looks at the paper, we hear about that. Examples of fraud could be check fraud, phishing, internet fraud. There's a lot of different ways that you can protect yourself from this. And the first one is fraud awareness. If the staff should be aware of the types of frauds that are out there and how they might be able to protect themselves. I know the Government Finance Officers Association that the town is a member of offers this type of training during the summer and in the fall, and periodically in their quarterly breakfast meetings. So I know Phil attends those, and that's a good thing for him to continue to attend, because that's where your town will get some of that education. Another area is segregation of duties. Obviously, with a small town, that you don't have a lot of people within the finance office. It's a little difficult to do segregation of duties, but it is important to look at that as best you can. System administrative controls. You will have an administrator that oversees the software that you have within Treasury. But what you want to do is you want to make sure there's someone overseeing that control, so that you don't have one person being able to do everything they want. Much like what you guys talked about earlier, with the lawn mowing. You got to have a process in place, checks and balances. You can't just let someone go and do whatever they want. So it's important to have some sort of controls and looking at that. The Money Manager GPS system that we have offers those type of controls, and those are good to be utilized so that you know exactly what's going on within the accounts. And the last thing is to leverage whatever financial products are available to you to help manage fraud. And I've got a couple listed on the next page. The first two out of these items have to deal with managing fraud. The third one is more improvement of collection and time management, and the last one is more of a time management type thing. So there's different items here. The first one is full reconciliation with positive pay. What this does is it performs a match of the checks that are issued that stops counterfeit checks. More and more of our municipalities are investing in this type of program. There's a little more work for the town where they have to send us a file each day of the checks that are issued. But once you send a file of the checks that are issued, when checks are presented either over the counter or through the back office tonight from another bank through our collection offices, it will be matched automatically to your account and to your file that you sent to us as far as the checks are concerned. The next morning, you would get a file of unmatched, and we would send that file to your town. The treasurer would then be able to look at that and be able to reject any checks that don't match, and therefore you stop the fraud within 24 hours instead of waiting till a monthly reconciliation is done. Like I said, it's a lot of, it's being used by a lot of our municipalities, and more people are looking into that. So that's something that you might want to think about. I know you might not have had fraud presented to you within your town, but I know more and more are, and especially the larger communities are looking at this. Another area is ACH blocks. ACH is becoming a more commonplace where people are creating fraudulent ACH files, and if you're not watching your account each day, you might be presented with an ACH file, an automatic debit that will hit your account, and if you can catch those quickly, you can return those. But if you put a block in place, you can stop the ACH from ever coming in. So that's an area that you might want to look at as well. The next piece would be the retail lockbox. It's an automated process to collect your tax payments. It's something that will improve your collections. It will improve your time management. I'm not sure if that's something that you would want to do here. Usually larger municipalities look at that. I'm not sure. We'd have to really look hard to see what you have for collections. I'm not sure the volume you have might warrant that investment, but it is something worthwhile to look at. And the last thing I know we've had some discussions with that we're close to implementing is a concentration account program. And what this would do is this would allow you to have some of your ancillary escrow type accounts that are somewhat dormant, that need separation of funds from your main operating account, creating a hierarchy of those accounts so that they are all merged into one account for expenditures and for investment purposes, but they have sub-accounting, so therefore you can keep those monies separate. And again, that's more of a managed time type of thing. So those are things that I can think of that might help improve your overall relationship. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what I'd say.
Any questions? Well, his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, before we go on with, leave the section of new business, it seems I'm always talking about a slip-up tonight. But I did file a request that the issue of the proposal for a pay-as-you-throw program for Tiverton be raised tonight for the simple purpose of having the town council vote on a motion to have a public hearing on that issue, on the proposal made by the landfill committee. A motion that would include a request to our town council, our town clerk, to come up with an appropriate date and provide the appropriate notices.
Jay, I hate to tell you, but I think what we need to do is make sure it gets onto the next agenda, because it's not on the agenda, and adding it to the agenda would not allow us to vote on it.
I understand that, and I still don't know what happened, but it proves that things do go wrong.
No, things do go wrong, but unfortunately, under the open meeting law, if we add an item to the agenda, we can't take a vote on it.
I said, okay, I'll still raise it,
I just
see
want
what
to,
happens.
well, the discussion needs to be there, but it's to
Do you
ask
want
the
to
clerk
put it on the agenda so we can?
I will definitely
That's what I'm
put
saying.
it on the agenda.
We are
for
making
next
a
week.
request for our next meeting to have an agenda item to include
the
the
next
pay-as-you-throw, so that we
Okay.
can schedule or discuss scheduling a
So it
public
is
hearing.
said, and
That's
so
it.
it shall be done.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
Is that a quote from the Bible?
Yeah, I think it's from the 10th.
I think
Town administrator announcements, comments, and questions.
Our tax sale is going to be on November the 6th, which is a Friday at 1 p.m. And currently we have 37 properties on the tax sale list. Tax collections. After completing the last quarter and the dust has settled, our tax collections are 0.29% behind what they were the previous year, and that represents the fact that we're behind by $93,000. Tonight's abatements will bring the abatements to a total of $78,834 so far this year. That's all I have. Thank you.
Council announcements, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the town solicitor.
I have no comments or
Then
questions for tonight.
then it's time to enter into executive session.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to 4246 5A6 to discuss prospective business.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
And to remain therein to discuss litigation pursuant to 4246 5A2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
And
Unanimous.
to continue therein to discuss personnel under 4246 5A1.
Second.
That's personnel, and that's the town administrator. And let the record show notice of consent. Seconded, all those in favor. We are now in executive session.